Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eronedu, and I'm the Managing Director for the Global Shea Alliance. We are an industry association. We bring together all of the stakeholders in the shea industry. So stakeholders include women cooperatives who collect the shea. We have suppliers who buy the shea and process. We have brands and retailers who process the shea into food and cosmetic ingredients. And so we have affiliates made up of the producer countries. And we are very excited to present at this event because most people know shea as used in cosmetics. You hear about shea butter, you think of cosmetics. But over 85% of all shea exported is used in the food industry, mostly in cosmetics. So we want to present to you about shea sustainability in the confectionery industry. So people ask, what is shea? Shea is a tree crop that is found in 21 countries across East and West Africa. There are two varieties, Vitellaria paradoxa and Vitellaria nilotica. The paradoxa variety is mostly found in West Africa and the nilotica in East Africa. The difference is that the paradoxa contains more of hard fats called stearin, which is used mostly as cocoa butter equivalent in chocolate. And then the nilotica is called olein and is very liquid and mostly used in cosmetics. The shea tree grows naturally in parklands, so nobody plants shea as at now. And they takes between 15 to 45 years to become mature, and they can live for about 300 years according to different researches that we have seen and then also conducted. An interesting thing about shea is that across the growing zone and in West Africa, it is the largest carbon sink. And we have a research conducted with the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations showing that shea trees or the shea industry is actually carbon neutral, and the more we consume shea in food and cosmetics, the more it helps to sequestrate carbon across East and West Africa. And so the industry and the product is sustainable. Where do you find shea grow? So you find it from the southern belt of Senegal down into Uganda, 21 African countries, stretching over 5,000 kilometers. And we estimate that there are about 2 billion shea trees found in this zone. Now, back onto this slide, the trees are not cultivated, right? So they are found in parklands, and you see them integrated with other trees. So where shea trees grow, people farm and cultivate their food crops, vegetables, and other things. You would see other activities like honey, that is beekeeping in these areas. So it's a whole agroforestry structure on its own. And then annually, the women will collect the fruits, process it, and then consume part and sell the rest. So on annual basis, you can see shea trees behind the two women in the first image. You have about 2 million shea shea fruit that is produced by the trees. The women go and handpick each of them. There are about 16 million women across the zones that pick them one by one, carry them to the house, process them, from the fruit into kernel, and then either sell the kernel or process it into butter for sale. So you can see some shea kernels that are processed into sacks here, ready for sale. So 60 million women across East and West Africa collect about 1 million metric tons of shea. As I said, the trees produce about 2 million metric tons, but half of it is not collected due to access. Some of the places are unreachable. Some of them are found in reserves, reserve areas, and some of them are also too far away for the women to go. So about half of the total production, about 1 million, is collected and processed. And then they process this by hand, depulping it, and then parboiling it, and then boiling it, dehusking, drying it before they put them into the sacks, as I showed you earlier. And then the 1 million collected across West Africa in the shea growing zone, it is the main source of oil. So people process into handcrafted butter for consumption primarily. Shea is primarily collected for consumption in the local areas, and then part of it is sold. So about 500,000 metric tons are exported, then the other 500,000 metric tons is processed and consumed in West Africa as food and also as cosmetic. The part exported generates about $200 million at the household level for the women who collect it. So this is the farm gate income. It does not include transporting it from the farm gate to the port. This is revenue that goes to the women who collect it. And because it goes to the women, the tradition is that they keep all of the money they collected because it is a women's industry, and then they use it for their own purpose. They don't share it with their husbands or with the family. Traditionally, money received from share is kept and used by women. So here is the value chain from collecting, also from fruiting on the trees to collecting to post-harvest processing, and then the 500,000 metric tons that is exported. It goes through a long trading chain from the women to middlemen to small suppliers to large suppliers to the port and then into Europe. Part of it is processed in West Africa. About half or 60% of all of the exported value or volume is processed in the primary and secondary in West Africa. So you have about 8 large-scale processing factories spread across West Africa doing the primary processing. Then you have about 3 plants that do the secondary processing, which is fractionation, that is converting it from the raw shea butter into stearin and olein, destined for food and cosmetic industry, respectively. Then the part that is handcrafted by the women, there is one refinery in Ghana where they refine it to be able to standardize the quality. All of this ends up in Europe, US, Europe, North America, and Asia, and then it is used in the food and cosmetic industry. As I said, 85% into the food industry, about 15% in the cosmetic industry. So if you buy chocolate in Europe, you are most likely consuming an ingredient of shea butter. So the butter processed into stearin is mixed with palm fraction to produce what we call cocoa butter equivalent, which is CBE, right? And it is a product that is similar to cocoa butter. So the EU regulations allow companies to use up to 5% of the volume of a bar of chocolate, replace the cocoa butter with cocoa butter equivalent, which mostly is shea butter and palm, fractionated palm. And then the benefits are different. It provides different benefits that I'll talk about later. So the stearin is used in chocolates, in confectionery products, and as I said, cocoa butter equivalent. Then the shea olein, it's also part of it is used in the food industry. It's used as cooking oil, for shortening, for plant-based meat substitute, and even for margarines. Recently, we have seen a lot of vegan spreads, right, produced with shea olein, and all of these are confectionery use of shea. how is the shea industry addressing the threats that are facing it? So the two biggest threats facing the industry include lack of women empowerment and declining shea tree population. You find that the women who collect that I showed earlier, between them and the final buyer, that is the companies, you would find 3, 4, sometimes 5 middlemen. So if even the buyer pays an FOB price of $500 per ton, the women end up getting less than $200. And the reason is that the women are spread across a wide geographical area, and reaching them individually is almost impossible. So you have intermediaries who collect in small volumes, who sell to other intermediaries and to other intermediaries before it gets to the final buyer. So though the buyers pay $500 per ton or equivalent of $400, it depends, but the women normally get much less. So this lack of women empowerment is considered as one of the biggest threats to the industry, because then you don't find more women going to collect, you don't find youth going into it, and the volume collected is sometimes not adequate to meet the demand. Then you also have declining tree population. That is the result of things like climate change, land tenure systems, increasing population, and a host of other things. All of these factors come together to mean that the shea trees that are already there now, the population is reducing. People are actually cutting down shea trees to meet their energy needs. That is, they convert the wood into charcoal and then sell, and it's big business across West Africa. So these two are the biggest threat facing the industry. And how is the whole shea industry trying to address this? The GSA developed what we call the sustainability program, where we bring multi-stakeholders together to develop guidelines and projects to address the two issues that I mentioned. And then the members, donors, and non-profits implement projects at the community level, and they include warehouses and women business development for women groups, so that we put the individual women collectors into a groups of 600, where they get a warehouse and a meeting location, and then they operate as a small business, so that instead of selling their products to different middlemen as individual women, they aggregate in the warehouse, they get introduced to a final buyer who goes to collect the bulk, about 100 metric tons from the warehouse, and then pay them much better. And we have seen that the result of this intervention is the women are seeing their income increasing between 47 and 75% beyond what they would normally get. We also do parkland management training, where we engage community leaders, landowners, government to protect the existing stock of trees so that they are not cut down. So local authorities come up with local bylaws, government come up with national and district laws to be able to protect the trees that are being cut. And then we are also undertaking a lot of tree planting with the help of different donors, and then the private sector. The GSA has actually launched the action for shea parkland that seeks to restore about 4 million hectares of degraded parklands and then plant 10 million new shea trees over the coming years. We are also undertaking promotion through conferences, exhibition, and research. The GSA and the industry is finding new market for shea. We're also providing technical assistance and market linkages for people who want to enter the industry, and for women collectors and SMEs that are looking for buyers for their products. We do consumer and industry marketing. We conduct research on shea benefits in use and share benefit use in food and cosmetic industry. We also do policy advocacy across West Africa at the national level, regional level, and international level. And at the country level where the trees are produced, we support the National Association. Then finally, we also develop quality standards and then promote quality best practices across the industry. Then we also undertake a lot of quality trainings to be able to improve the raw materials, which is either the kernel or the butter before they are sold. So you can see here the first image is a typical cooperative training where we bring different women from different places and put them together to work as a small business. It takes about a year to be able to do this, but at the end of the day, you would have 600 women, mostly not educated, but who would have a structured organization, structured leadership, bylaws and constitution, bank account, working together, and then saving part of their revenue. We also undertake a lot of quality trainings, as you can see in the second image, where we work with women to be able to improve the quality of the product that they produce. The trainings also include training of trainers. The educated women amongst them, we bring them to a centralized location, train them, and then they go back into their communities to offer the same type of training to the members of their cooperative. We also work a lot with SMEs, as you can see in the second image, small and medium enterprises that are doing finished products across West Africa, go through different types of training to improve their capacity in places like cosmetic formulation, bookkeeping, labeling, packaging, and then being able to abide by the different rules and regulations in the different countries where they seek to sell their product. So the Global Shea Alliance launched the Action for Shea Parkland, and it is meant to respond to the declining shea tree population. As I said, we estimate that about 8 million shea trees are cut every year. And if the current trend continues, from our research, by 2034, demand will outstrip supply. So the Action for Shea Parkland seeks to restore 4 million hectares of degraded parklands and then 4 million hectares of degraded parkland and then grow about 10 million new trees. We normally have about 50% survival rate when we plant shea trees. So in reality, we would have about more than 20 million shea trees planted over the next 10 years and hope that, or work to make sure that about 10 million of them do survive. And we are building partnership with the private sector, with government, with donors and civil society organizations, as well as community leaders to be able to implement this. So we have declared July 16th every year as the Shea Day, where all of our members undertake different activities in support of this Action for Shea Parkland initiative. And on every July 16th, we say that people should share more love, as you can see in the image here. Mark your calendar, and July 16, 2023, help us, to share more love. So far, what have we been able to achieve? We have about 460,000 women grouped into 400, about 450 different cooperatives who have gone through training, and they are working as independent small businesses. On average, these 450 cooperatives have seen their income increase by about 46%. We were able to do this through the development of about 98 public and private partnerships. It includes, a donor, a private sector, the women cooperative, and then an NGO and the GSA, all coordinating to bring the women to form these cooperatives. We've been able to plant over 400,000, or raise about 400,000 seedlings as of last year. And then the leadership of this 460,000 is about 3,000 women in different positions managing the 450 cooperatives. We've been able to facilitate the donation of over 31,000 health and safety equipment. One problem facing the industry is women get bitten by snakes when they go and collect, or scorpions. They have muscular and skeletal injuries, exposure to sun. And so health and safety is a big issue in the industry, and the partners, the members, the donors have helped to donate about 31,000 equipment of different types. We've been able to partner with 172 partners, or implementing partners, be it private sector, women group, non-profit, government, and donors. And we are currently operating in 7 countries across West Africa. So this is how we map our achievements so far to the UN SDG. The way we implement our project is through public-private partnership, as I said earlier, and we want to do something that is scalable. So we bring different stakeholders, women groups, private sector, non-profit, the GSA, and donors, to establish one partnership, one collaboration to implement each of our projects, so that every stakeholder is represented and then the benefit is large. Now, we also seek to increase the trade of kernels and butter across West Africa, as well as finished products from these countries from West Africa into around the world. We seek to strengthen the cooperatives we have established so that these women are able to work as private, small women-led businesses. We are also developing a Shea agroforestry model, where in addition to Shea, we encourage the women to cultivate other crops within the parklands. So doing things like soya beans, maize, like mixed cropping, and then that improves the ecosystem, but then also increases the income of the women. We're also working to restore a lot of the parklands, and in partnership with research institutions across West Africa and around the world, we are working to develop improved planting materials. Because as of now, if you put a Shea seed into the soil, it will take a year before you can plant it, or before it will begin to, it will germinate, but it will take a year before it becomes like a proper seedling. It will take about 15 years if you plant it normally before it will begin to fruit, 25 years before it becomes commercially viable, and then from 45, it begins to produce relatively good volumes of kernels. Nobody can wait for that. People are not ready to invest in that, and so the research into improved planting material is to help reduce the gestation period of Shea, such that private sector will be able to invest into large plantations of Shea for the future. And so far, we have partnership with several donors and private sector, as you can see on my screen here. USAID has been with the Global Shea Alliance for over 10 years. We have MasterCard Foundation, the GIZ, the German Corporation, the Green Climate Fund, working through the Forestry Commission in Ghana, as well as other institutions and donors that we have here. I really appreciate your time with us this afternoon. I'm available for questions, and we'll be very glad to respond to all of the questions you would have. You can reach me by aadu@globalshare.com or visit globalshare.com for more information. Thank you.